What if I told you that one single phone call, yes, just one, completely changed the course of Johnny Depp's life? Not a new movie offer, not a courtroom update, but something far more personal and far more life-saving. We all have moments when everything feels like it's falling apart. Moments when it feels like the weight of the world has been placed directly on your shoulders and no one else can see it. Maybe it's a brutal breakup, a career setback, or a public disaster that makes you feel like the whole world's watching you fail, waiting for you to crumble. Johnny Depp? He went through all of that at the same time. And the world wasn't just watching him crumble, it was cheering on the collapse. At least that's how it must have felt. When your life is unraveling under a microscope and headlines are spinning your every breath into controversy, it can feel like you're not just losing control, you're losing your identity. And just when it looked like there was no coming back, his phone rang. That moment may have saved his life. This is not the story of a comeback in the traditional Hollywood sense. It's not about landing a major role or being cast as a franchise lead. It's not about lawsuits won or endorsements renewed. This is a story about something quieter, more profound. The kind of rescue that doesn't make the front page of a magazine. A rescue that arrives in the most unassuming form. A phone call from someone who loves you. Someone who sees through the noise and into the person you are beneath it all. Let's rewind to 2017. Johnny Depp, once considered Hollywood royalty, the quirky yet magnetic actor who had captivated audiences with roles like Edward Scissorhands, Ichabod Crane, Sweeney Todd, and of course Captain Jack Sparrow, was now a target for every gossip column, entertainment news show, and digital tabloid. The actor who once commanded the highest salaries in Hollywood had become more famous for controversy than for craft. Legal battles were mounting. Depp was suing his former business managers, claiming they had mismanaged hundreds of millions of his dollars. Counter lawsuits followed. His divorce from actress Amber Heard had turned from a private heartbreak into a global media circus with allegations, denials, and deeply personal details thrown around in courtrooms and online forums alike. Studios distanced themselves from him. Disney quietly shelved any plans for more Pirates of the Caribbean films with Depp on board. Friends vanished. Colleagues stopped returning calls. In the eyes of the public, Johnny Depp was no longer a beloved actor, he was a scandal. But while the public was busy dissecting the drama, what they didn't see was the far more dangerous storm brewing behind the scenes. In the rare interviews Depp gave during that time, he would later reveal the depth of his struggle. His finances were in tatters. Years of earnings had evaporated. He was drowning in legal fees. He was drinking heavily. He admits he was abusing substances, not to party, but to numb. He described a kind of pain that sat on his chest like a weight he couldn't lift. The betrayal of people he had trusted. The loss of roles that had defined his identity. The disbelief that after decades of work, everything could vanish so quickly, so violently. And then there was the silence. The quiet that follows when the cameras stop flashing and the invitations stop coming. The kind of quiet that doesn't soothe, it suffocates. He isolated himself. There were days when he wouldn't leave the bedroom. He'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how it had all gone so wrong. He said in one interview that he had reached the lowest point of his life. He described a depression so intense that he questioned whether there was any reason left to keep going. He stopped eating. He stopped responding to messages. The world thought Johnny Depp had disappeared from Hollywood, but in truth, he had nearly disappeared from life itself. And then the phone rang. It wasn't a lawyer. It wasn't an agent. With a new script. It wasn't a publicist trying to salvage his image. It was his daughter, Lily Rose Depp. And she didn't come at him with judgment or even advice. She didn't ask him to change. She didn't beg him to go to rehab. She didn't try to fix him. She just said, "Dad, I love you. I need you. Please don't give up." Simple words, no theatrics, no pressure, just love. And something about those words hit Johnny like nothing else had. For a man who had always described his children as his anchor, his reason for being, that phone call wasn't just a moment of kindness, it was a lifeline. It reminded him of something that the chaos had buried. He mattered. Not because he was a star, not because he was rich, not because he was famous, but because he was dad. He shared in later interviews how that one moment didn't suddenly make everything better. The depression didn't vanish. The lawsuits didn't disappear. The headlines didn't rewrite themselves. But something shifted. The darkness didn't feel so final. The pain didn't feel so permanent. There was a reason to get up, a reason to eat, a reason to try. Just a sliver of hope. And sometimes, that's all it takes. You see, we often imagine recovery as some grand, cinematic transformation, a big gesture, a dramatic moment. But real life isn't a movie. In real life, recovery often starts quietly. It starts with small decisions. Choosing to get out of bed. Choosing to answer the phone. Choosing not to pour that next drink. It's not glamorous, it's not instant, but it's powerful. And that call from Lily Rose was the first step on Johnny's road back. Not to fame, but to himself. And that brings us to a bigger truth, one that many of us forget. Fame doesn't protect you from pain. In fact, it often magnifies it. When regular people fall apart, they do so in private. But when celebrities crumble, it becomes entertainment. We watch their breakdowns on YouTube. We share memes about their mugshots. We gossip about their marriages. And we forget that they're still human. They still bleed. They still ache. They still need love, support, and connection. Depp's story is a reminder of how toxic celebrity culture can be, not just for the stars, but for us as a society. We're quick to cancel, quick to condemn, slow to understand, and painfully slow to forgive. But when you look past the headlines, past the scandals, past the PR spin, what you find is a man who was hurting, a man who made mistakes, a man who was trying to survive. Just like anyone else. He didn't bounce back overnight. His journey was long and hard. He leaned into his music, touring with his band, the Hollywood Vampires, not for money, but for catharsis. Music became his therapy. The stage became his sanctuary. He began surrounding himself with people who didn't want anything from him, just friends who wanted to see him okay. He took time away from the spotlight. He focused on rebuilding his relationship with his children. Slowly, day by day, he began to reassemble the broken parts of his life. And throughout it all, he kept that phone call close to his heart. It's a beautiful and heartbreaking thing that the most powerful turning point in his life wasn't a role, or a verdict, or a paycheck. It was love. Pure, unconditional, unfiltered love. From a daughter to her father. A reminder that no matter how far you fall, there's always a reason to rise. There's something all of us can take from this. First, never underestimate the power of a simple act. A text, a call, a kind word. You never know who's hanging on by a thread. You never know whose life might change because you reached out. Second, you don't have to be perfect to be loved. Johnny Depp was at his absolute worst when he received that call, and yet he was loved. He didn't have to clean himself up first. He didn't have to redeem himself. Love met him where he was, and that's what real love does. Third, connection is everything. In a world that often feels cold, chaotic, and isolating, the human connection is our lifeline. According to renowned trauma expert Dr. Gabor Mate, connection is the single most important factor in healing from pain and addiction. Not medication, not rehab, not even therapy alone, but real human connection. And Johnny's story is proof of that. He didn't start healing because of a program. He started healing because someone reached out and said, "I still see you. Now I want to turn this to you." Have you ever had a phone call or message that changed your life? Or maybe you sent one that changed someone else's. Maybe it was a sibling, a parent, a friend. Maybe you just said, "Hey, I'm thinking of you." Maybe that was all it took. If you feel comfortable, share it in the comments. Your story could be the reason someone else makes a different choice today. And if this story resonated with you, stick around. Our next video dives into why Keanu Reeves secretly gives away millions. It's another reminder that even in an industry known for ego, there are still people who live with heart. If you're someone who craves stories that look beyond the red carpet, stories about the real struggles, the real victories, and the real humanity behind the celebrities we think we know, then hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. We've got so much more coming your way. Johnny Depp's story isn't just a cautionary tale, it's a redemption story. Not in the flashy blockbuster sense, but in the raw, vulnerable, deeply human sense. A story about losing everything and then finding something even more important. You'd think a Hollywood pirate could just sail away from his problems. But the truth is, even the strongest ships take on water. And sometimes, the only thing that keeps them afloat is one voice on the other end of the line saying, "Don't give up." Thanks for watching. Stay kind, stay curious, and never underestimate the power of a phone call.